Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. We're just minutes from, Crown Jewel, the Crown Jewel premium live event live from Saudi Arabia. It just aired. Roman Reigns is still the undisputed Universal Champion to the shock of, well, absolutely nobody. But it was a show which was, well, it was a full of, a lot of surprises. Damian Priest tried to cash in, but failed. He didn't actually end up getting it in because Sami Zayn stole the briefcase. War Games got announced. Kairi Sane returned. And a lot more. We have so much to get into on today's show. It's going to be a fun one. I'm excited. And I hope you guys are excited as well. But talking about people who are excited, let me introduce today's panel. Firstly, the co-host of the show, Mr. Clark Taylor. Clark, how are you today?
You know me. I'm stoked to be here as usual. It's a fine Saturday here in Southern California. It's always fun to have wrestling midday in the middle of the fall for college football season. I can watch some college football tonight. I can watch some Collision tonight. And I got an awesome premium live event, as I have to say now, pay-per-view, the little kid in me wants to say. But I was not exactly super stoked about the entire show, despite the fact that I love watching wrestling, and I really can't wait to get into it because it's one of those things that's a bit funky. It was a funky show in my eyes. There was a lot of clunky booking, I would say, to say the least. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Excited to hear from the rest of the panel as well.
Well, based on that, clunky certainly seems the word to describe the show, in your opinion. But also joining us, we have the man who actually reviewed this show. It's going to be, the full review is going to be up on the website in a few hours or so, and that man is all the way from Canada, and that is the head of reviews here at Wrestling Republic, Coby Galenzoski. Coby, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Of course, it's enjoyable to not have to watch a show on a Sunday night like a Wrestle Dream or a All Out. But this, especially on the other side of the pond, we have a nice sizable, a good enough time for our friends, especially the fact that half of the panel is from that on that pond. But I'm here. I'm reviewing. Of course, I'm reviewing the show. I'm the pay-per-view guy. I'm the man of the hour, the head of reviewing, however you want to say it. I'm here. I'm ready to enjoy this chat about the show.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, we have the AEW reviewer for Wrestling Republic. So I guess, on this show he should rate everything not even 1 star, -5 stars, and should hate every segment of it. Of course not. We're unbiased here at Wrestling Republic, and that man is David Sheldon. David, how are you today?
I hated it all. Every bit of it. No. Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to get into talking about Crown Jewel today. Show that I thought overall was a bit fine. I thought that there were some really good bits that I'm really excited to get into. But overall, I think it's a show that under-delivered given how potentially exciting the card was. But that's not to say that it was a bad show by any means. I think we've been spoiled by some really, really great stuff in the Triple H era of pay-per-views. And I think it may have been, although it was more of on the lower end, I think it was still a fine show with some really, really good stuff. So I'm excited to talk about it. Let's get at it.
Absolutely. And let's get straight into things. Let's talk about the World Heavyweight Championship. Over the last few months on this show, we've, talked in detail about, how to make this new World Heavyweight Championship feel prestigious. Because, of course, that's not an easy job to do with a brand new championship. But one way to do it is by having, great matches. And Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre was one of those. It was a great way to kick off the show. In my personal opinion, the best match of the show. But Seth Rollins got the job done. It took a couple of, false finishes first. But in the end, the stomp did the trick. And he hit Drew McIntyre's head on the canvas. 1, 2, 3, and still, I'm not going to lie, I was really hoping that after, that count happened and Seth Rollins was celebrating, I was really hoping that Drew McIntyre was just going to kick Seth Rollins in the head and fully turn heel. And I still wish that's, what they did, to be honest, because I think this next part would have made even more sense, because that next part was Damian Priest came running down the ramp, cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase, and everybody was like, wait a second, it's happening. And then a hooded man appeared from the crowd and took out Damian Priest and stole the Money in the Bank briefcase, and that man was Sami Zayn. Now, a couple things about this. Firstly, like I just said, I wish Drew McIntyre kicked Rollins, again after the match first, because I feel like that would have added a little more to it. And secondly, I really wish Sami Zayn didn't just have a match on the pre-show. So it really was, shocked to see him there in Saudi Arabia. I feel like that would have been a bit more, of a moment rather than what they actually did. Because we literally saw this guy like 20 minutes before, and now he's, a hooded figure coming out of the crowd acting all shocked. A little bit weird on that one. But overall, this was just a banger of about to open the show. But Clark Taylor, what did you think of it?
This was by far the match of the night, and it really wasn't close. And I was kind of stunned by that. That it stole the show in every sense, except the Priest and Sammy part, where I was just lost. Like you said, Sami Zayn wrestles on the pre-show. This is a big deal. And then he comes out and it's not the same shock. And it's not, I don't know what we're doing with Damian Priest, and we're going to get into the Judgment Day later. And man, this wasn't the best night in my eyes for the Judgment Day, but that's neither here nor there. I think this one was the match of the night because Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre are both that good. And while I agree with your sentiments about McIntyre potentially turning heel, I do think at the end of the day, they stole the show as a whole. It was the best wrestled match top to bottom. And wherever Drew goes from here, it needs to be in the world title picture. Whether Seth ends up from here, it needs to be in a big story or the world title picture. I don't know if Damian Priest needs to be in the world title picture, but Sami Zayn might. If that briefcase is really in his possession, I don't mind him being in the world title picture. I don't know where we go from here, but Seth retains in what was one heck of a match, but there's a lot to unfold, I think, for sure.
Absolutely. No, it was one of those, like you said, matches where I think universally everybody enjoyed it. But it was that angle after the match where, well, people have had mixed feelings, to say the very least. We got a couple of comments here. Let me check them out. Firstly, Cool Gamer. Hello, Cool Gamer. Welcome to the show. Let us know your thoughts on Crown Jewel in the comments for sure. But Coby, as the head of reviews here at Wrestling Republic, what were your thoughts on this one?
See, the way I'm coming things at it is I 100% agree. From the statement of my enjoyment, my personal biases, and from the star rating system that we've created, it is in fact the highest rated match of the show. And I agree, this was match of the night. This I don't want to say set us up for disappointment, because it started us off with such a solid and just a really good match from start to finish. In terms of the angle, I liked it. because and I know I'll mention it again. We know Ben Allison likes to predict a lot of cash-ins, and
I do.
if he given the opportunity, he would have predicted it tonight. He probably would have.
Maybe.
They are doing their best to make it seem like he's coming that close, and he just doesn't get it. To me, I agree with the criticisms of if Sami Zayn didn't just wrestle 20 minutes ago, it would have been a bigger pop to see him that he actually is there. To me, but I like it because it gives us the opportunity to take this story in a different direction. I like what they also did after the match because we saw Rhea Ripley kind of go face to face with Drew McIntyre. And he was able to look there. He was able to look. Drew's looking, sitting there, and Rhea Ripley's has that "I told you so" face. I don't know what the direction is for Drew McIntyre, but that's where I'm invested. That's where we as wrestling fans are able to be like, okay, this is what I'm excited for. This is what I'm interested in. Does he join the Judgment Day? Does he turn heel fully? Where does he go from here? And that's what excites me, at least.
Yeah, no, I mean there are a lot of possibilities, and that makes it fun to speculate on. But David, what about you? What do you reckon is the way forward from here, and what were your thoughts on this match?
Well, I'll start the match itself. I thought it was terrific. I don't think it was match of the year quality. I don't think it was anything to that extent. I preferred Seth's match with Styles and Night of Champions, but I did prefer it to the Nakamura matches. I really like the match. I think they work very well together. I said a lot of very nice things about their match in 2020 that I think still has gone under the radar. I did still prefer their match at Money in the Bank 2020 to this one, but this was still a terrific match. Really enjoyed the near falls, some really cool spots in here. I agree with Ben on the post-match angle, but I didn't dislike the post-match angle. I just think that there were ways that could have made the post-match angle better. Like I said, not having Sami wrestle, admittedly a very good pre-show match with JD McDonough, but something that, it did kind of take away from the surprise a little bit. But I did believe that Priest was going to cash in. They did get me, so that's exciting. As for where we go, I think we all know where we're going because we're going to War Games. What we do with Seth, I think we're going to do Drew again. To be honest, I think it's going to be Seth and Drew, 2 in some sort of stipulation, which will be great fun. I think they've got fantastic chemistry together. But yeah, I think that it was a really, really good way to open the show. If anything, I think there's an argument to be made that it would have been more interesting in the main event. Although Roman and LA Knight obviously had the star power behind it, which it makes it an obvious main event match. If you could have put it even after the Damian Priest-Cody Rhodes match, it would, which I think was completely pointless. It would have given especially with Cody beating Priest, it would have played even more then into this idea of, the Money in the Bank winner always loses their match before they cash in and all of that stuff. And it could have just made for something more interesting if you'd have put it later on in the show. But for where it is, a fantastic match and a really, really, really nice way to open the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more on that. And you mentioned the fact that the Money in the Bank loser usually, the Money in the Bank winner usually loses a match on the show when they cash in. And that's why I jokingly said later on the night, and we'll get into this later, that Damian was thinking to cash in on the main event. But something you also mentioned was, of course, War Games.
Okay.
And I mean, it's exciting, isn't it? I mean, could we see... I guess the people who, it would currently be is the Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes. Who would the fifth be?
I was going to say Kevin, but Kevin's gone.
Is JD would JD be in the match? I don't think he does.
I hope not.
Well, the reason why it definitely will be a 5v5. They're not getting taken away from the 5v5.
Could it be a? Not
for Survivor Series.
If they take Drew out, could they do a 5v5 with Rhea and a woman on the men's team and have it be intergender? Which is something they've never done before.
It'd be historic.
Whether I want it or not is a different question, but I do think that Rhea is kind of integral to that storyline as well.
Yeah.
Whatever they decide to do, I pray that it's the end of the interactions between these people, because it's just
Thank you.
I'm so fed up of seeing these guys
Preach,
feud.
David.
I've seen them wrestle in 100 combinations for the last 6 months, and it feels like the last few months we've dragged it out to get to War Games. But I think we need War Games should be the finale of this, and then we move on.
The blow-off match, the big blow-off match.
Gotta be. Otherwise, what's the point
no.
of War Games? What's the point? It's the same thing. Blood and Guts, should be the blow-off to an AEW faction feud. War Games should be a blow-off to a WWE feud.
No, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more on that one. And yeah, and to your point, Coby, usually I would say, with normal War Games, 4v4, I actually kind of preferred that stipulation. But of course, Survivor Series historically, well, pretty much every Survivor Series has been the 5v5. Even though I know obviously Triple H has mixed up this tradition and turned it into a War Games one, even still, I can't see him just completely ripping up Vince McMahon's baby like that.
The WWE historically, though, also doesn't necessarily break rules. They just make new rules.
It's true, but I don't know.
And it felt a little bit traditional. I will say it does feel a little bit like, as a company, it felt like they stopped caring about Survivor Series about a decade ago.
That's true.
And so I think, to be honest with you, Triple H may see it, particularly with last year, because last year's show, I had faults with last year's show, it was a huge success. So, and I think that they may see it as an opportunity to rebrand Survivor Series specifically into the War Games stuff, to kind of give it a new environment that's not just, because nobody cares about brand warfare. Nobody's cared about brand warfare.
It was fun the first
years.
couple of years.
Yeah, it was.
When they brought it back.
And like
the
first few years for brand space, it's fun, but it's only fun if you stick to it. And they don't stick to it. So it eventually just gets boring. So for me, I think keep it a War Games, because War Games is infinitely more interesting than red shirts versus blue shirts.
Yes, it is. That's the truth. There's no doubt.
Why
It's
is
hard to
one of them the
disagree.
skins?
That's absolutely spot on.
I tell you what would make it interesting if you still wanted to do something to do with thing. Put NXT in there as well, because I think because I do think the NXT stuff is a genuine novelty, which is why I think the 2019 Survivor Series worked so well. And then since then we went back to red versus blue, it felt like it kind of died again. So War Games or the three, but that for me, I think War Games is much more interesting.
Yeah, no, when there's a story, I always say story is the most important thing in professional wrestling. So yeah, when there's a story, just like there was last year, it makes things 10 times better. And this year, I mean, they built up this story for months now. They kind of were building up like the Bloodline were going to be involved, but whatever, right? Now they're doing it this way. I'm down for it. Maybe it will be across brands. Maybe it won't be JD in there. Maybe it'll be like Solo Sikoa or Jimmy Uso instead. And then we'll have Kevin Owens on SmackDown be the fifth for the baby faces. Maybe that's the way they go, but obviously Owens is doing other stuff now. Maybe. It's just a big complicated mess, isn't it, guys? But now let's move on, and let's move on to the women's fatal 5-way as Rhea Ripley defended her World Women's Championship against Zoe Stark, Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax. And this match for me, I know a lot of people weren't looking forward to it going in. I thought it did its job, right? Rhea Ripley's entrance was quite a long one, but still good to see them doing special entrances, and I hope they do more of those in these premium live events, because when they do, it makes it feel like a bigger deal. We saw how successful they were with NXT takeovers. I was rewatching NXT takeover in New York last night, actually. And it was crazy how important that the War Raiders, now known as the Viking Raiders, their entrance felt. It just felt so important because of it being special. And it kind of felt a bit the same here for Rhea Ripley. But yeah, a solid match, nothing too special. And in the end, Rhea Ripley retained her World Women's Championship. Clark, give me your thoughts on this one.
I'm going to go with all the positives that I saw. Number one, Ripley is as over as anyone, and it was awesome to see her wrestle this match. We've asked her to wrestle more often for a while, and when I say we, I mostly mean me, right? I've asked for Rhea Ripley to be on our screen wrestling more often for a while now. She wrestled a lot of this match. She was involved in so many spots. A few other standouts. Zoe Stark. Talk about someone who can take a bump. She took multiple stiff, snug bumps. And excuse you, Coby. And
Oh,
she
shit.
whoops. And she she Zoe Stark took some awesome bumps, including the riptide at the end as a part of the finish across the back. As a guy with a bad back, your spine's not supposed to go that direction. And I was impressed by her. Shayna Baszler, I thought looked excellent wearing her black belt out there in the ring in Saudi Arabia. Very cool knowing the ADCC history and the history of the grappling in the Middle East and all of that. Very cool to see her wear that as far as her ring gear, and I thought she looked excellent in the match as well. And to Ripley's credit, the selling on the Kirifuda clutch was outstanding in my eyes. And speaking of eyes, the eyes are what made it. The way Ripley sold it. I- Overall, the match was what it was. It was more than I expected at the end of the day. I expected less and got more, and I'll never knock that in professional wrestling. And I dug the match as a whole. As far as where Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day go, we're gonna have to discuss that further because that's where I get a little concerned.
Well, we all know your thoughts on the Judgment Day, Clark, and we've all known them for a very long time. You've never been a fan of them, and I don't think you ever will be, no matter what they do. But I still have hope. I still have hope they will prove you wrong. But let's now talk about somebody who, well, he got proved wrong. John Cena. He said that tonight, Saudi Arabia, Crown Jewel, this was going to be the turning point. This was going to be the revival of his career. But just like Conor McGregor, he failed at reviving his own career because Solo Sikoa took him out brutally. It was not a squash match. It was quite even for the most part. But let's be honest about it, at least in my opinion, the first half of that match, Solo Sikoa, John Cena, it was just kind of forgettable. But it was the second half where it felt really special, and then that ending sequence, it was perfect in my eyes. Solo Sikoa, Samoan Spike, Solo Sikoa, another Samoan Spike, and 10 Samoan Spikes in total, including at the end just ones on the floor to John Cena. John Cena couldn't even stand. Solo Sikoa said weeks ago now that his aim was to make sure that John Cena could no longer talk, because one of John Cena's best weapons was his voice. That's why John Cena is the GOAT, in the words of Paul Heyman. Well, it looks like he's not going to be able to talk for a while now. It seems like this was a way to write John Cena off television. And Solo Sikoa, well, wow, oh wow, does he feel like a star now? I've said from the start, I think there's a possibility that he is the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns. Do I think that's what they should do? No. Do I think that's what they're going to do? Maybe. Do I think he has that potential? Absolutely. And he showed it in this match. Great job to Solo Sikoa. Great heel work. And great selling by John Cena as well. But in the end, Solo Sikoa gets the dub. David, give me your thoughts on this.
Well, I will say that I thought the match itself was pretty boring, but I think that the last 5 minutes were really good. And I think that that is how you leave them. And while I thought the match itself was all right, was fine, it was a bit, like I said, a bit dull. Both competitors, right? Nothing really got botched. Nothing was really bad. It's just seen as not that good anymore in the ring. He's slowed down as he doesn't wrestle much anymore, and he's got a lot older. It's that's absolutely understandable. But he it all kind of came together in the end for a good finishing sequence of the Samoan spikes. I think it's a great look for Solo, and I'm glad that that's how they went with the Samoan spike after Samoan spike after Samoan spike after Samoan spike. It just makes Sikoa look like a killer. Nice way if they want to write Cena off. I don't think this is to write Cena off TV, I'm going to be honest, but I'm going to see how it goes. But yeah, I thought that this was, like I said, not a lot, but did its job nicely, and I did like the finishing sequence, and I think that is what matters at the end of the day for the storyline to advance. Pretty good.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is true. I mean, we talk about this often. A finish either makes or breaks a wrestling match. It is the most important part of a match because it is usually what a match is remembered for. Not always, but usually. And I think in this case, that is, certainly what's going to happen. I think for years now, people are going to look back on this and remember that moment. They're not going to remember anything from the first half of that match, right? Nothing at all. But that ending, that finishing sequence, I think is what people are going to remember. But something else that people are going to remember is social media influencer, megastar, whatever you want to call him, Logan Paul becoming the United States champion. Well, if you told me 18, 24, 36 months ago that Logan Paul would be the WWE United States champion, I would have called you absolutely crazy. I would not have believed you, but let's face the facts. This man has come into the professional wrestling industry. He has come into WWE, and he has been a natural. He is a natural heel. He's a very easily, dislikable guy. And he has just picked up on everything, athletically, very, very quickly. Did he have a couple of botches in this match? Yes. But did he recover every single one of those botches? Yes, he did, in my personal opinion. I thought he did great in this match against Rey Mysterio. Of course, Rey Mysterio did great, as always, as well. But now Logan Paul is the United States champion. And it's exciting to see what is next for him. Because, yeah, like I said, nobody would have believed, this just 18, 24 months ago. But, I mean, Coby, what do you think about this? What do you think with Logan Paul being the new United States champion?
So this is my time to really think about things, and this is where I want to pose questions and debate things. I said this yesterday, and I'm doubling down on this. We have Survivor Series, which is 3 weeks away, and we have the Royal Rumble, which is almost just shy of 3 months. There's a big gap between Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble. I assume that he either has a rematch with Rey at Survivor Series or something with that U.S. title, but there's a large gap. And I don't want to say we might not see Logan Paul with the title for a lot of the build-up between them, but we might not. He's a part-time superstar, and SmackDown has a part-time world champion. As a SmackDown viewer, as someone who, it's on Fox. It's been the A show for the last few years. This is a weird time because we don't know if Roman Reigns is going to be wrestling at Survivor Series. We don't know what's going to happen with that in general. And if we have the mid card champion, essentially in a puzzling position as well, because he's not going to do full time. He's not going to be there week to week. We have the two singles champions are part time, or could be part time. To me, that I don't know if that's a troubling position. I don't know if that is something to worry about. But that to me is the first thing that comes to mind. But I 100% agree. The match was fun. It was enjoyable. I don't think it was by all means not one of the strongest performances Logan had. He had great matches this year, and with Ricochet and Seth Rollins. This I don't know which was weaker, this or the Miz singles match from last year's SummerSlam, but that doesn't take the credit. He's a natural in this business. He protected Rey, and to see someone like a celebrity, come into the business, take it seriously, and he has that awareness that Ray almost could have got hurt with that springboard. I mean, you can't sit there and disrespect Logan because of that.
I mean,
He knew to protect Ray, and he did.
He no-sold a 619 though. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
we
know
did.
how protected that was.
On with the replay that they did, he did sell it. He fell back. He stumbled. He got up. He's a bigger guy.
619. You have to store a finisher in the video game to use that move.
Bobby Lashley doesn't take a 619 and stay down for the count. He takes it. He maybe rolls to his feet, but he stumbles
Usually
back.
sets up the frog splash of the
a
West Coast
tall,
Pop.
lanky guy. I'm not turning this into an argument.
He's
a tall, lanky guy. He can sell it, and he sold it fine.
Yeah,
I've seen way worse.
Yeah. I've seen Cena no sell the 619. I've seen Edge no sell the 619. I've seen Taker no sell the 619. I've seen plenty of people no sell the 619. I mean, could it have been a little bit better sold? Yeah, it could, but it didn't bother me particularly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to be honest,
Right.
David. I agree with you on that one, Clark.
I just don't see the value in the
I
move.
think you have something against Rey Mysterio at the minute.
No, I really don't.
I
actually, this is me being pro Rey Mysterio here. If the 619 is the move that it is, and everybody can stand up and punch you in the face off of it, what is the point? Where is the offense? You tell me the move offensively that Rey Mysterio can use to put anyone away. If the 619 is not enough to hold a guy down for like a roll backwards and then punch him
619 and the frog splash. That's always what it's been.
It's
combined.
Very rare.
So he has
that's what it's always been.
It's very rare. I don't think I've ever seen a 619 end a wrestling match. It's always been either the frog splash that comes after it or the what he used to the West Coast Pop.
So it's which is a roll up, but at the same time, how? Explain to me then what's the value of the 619 then if it's just a ding to the face.
It's an iconic move. It's
essentially a signature.
Yes, and I agree. So he can't lay down. Logan Paul doesn't lay down long enough. He's got the wherewithal to stand up from the 619 and throw a right hand to the face.
Well, why?
That's a lot to ask.
If we think about all the iconic 619 memories we can think of, it's the splash into the last ride, the splash into the spear, all of those things, like in the Rumble, was it 2009, where Edge versus Rey Mysterio with the spear out of the 619 thing. Well, you can make exactly the same argument there, but nobody really brings it up there because it's cool. Sometimes you have just got to suspend your disbelief and say, yeah, whatever. And I get you, Clark. I understand, I do. But I think I do think we're picking an argument here on that we've seen far worse.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, another point as well about it, right, is that, of course, like you said, whatever, he didn't sell the 619. But if he just rolled back, then did it, and then I think, David, you said it on the watch along, then fell onto Rey Mysterio and won. So he used the momentum, had one last bit of energy, bang, and then fell onto Rey Mysterio instead of getting up and celebrating. That would make more sense. I do agree with that point. I will say that. But I do think out of everything on the show, especially in this match, to be honest, to even have like a big issue about, I thought the Buckshot Lariat was the sloppiest on it.
The other thing is keep in mind what he did. He had the brass knuckles on it, so it was already a illegal. I don't want to say an illegal hit, but it wasn't like he got he had a loaded fist, so all he had to do was swing. He didn't have to use one hand to knock the man out. If you want to complain about, if you want to mention it, we can talk about that as well.
No, but
he still had an assisted punch,
but he stood over that. So he did sell the move, but then he stood over him before he pinned him. So he was okay after he punched him.
He was.
We can do revisionist history as much as you'd like, Cobb.
It's not revisionist
I understand both points of view.
He stood right over him, though. He didn't fall on him. He stood right over him.
I didn't say he had to fall over him.
Stood over him and looked at him. Well, he was okay all of a sudden, right after he punched him. Just
I
saying.
there's not enough issue. There's not
Usos
enough
fine.
care to complain about this match.
I think if we
Totally.
start complaining about this too much, I think
right.
it comes to the point
Yeah.
of we need to complain about stuff in most matches.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, you get dropped on your. I mean, some of your
Yeah,
favorite
you
matches,
don't mute
Clark,
your
with the
mic
Young
during
Bucks,
someone else's
they've
thing.
had pile drivers and got up straight away, and you've told me that you've loved the match, and that is 10 times worse being dropped on your head.
Wow.
Then this.
Yeah.
I will say that to play devil's advocate, but I do see your concern. Like I said, like to David's point earlier on, I think Logan should have used the momentum and then fallen over into the pin. That way, we wouldn't be in this position right now.
Could have been better.
It could have been undoubtedly, but now
Keep in
let's
mind,
move on.
he won the title off of a simple slingshot splash to Theory, and that's not even a finisher. Like,
Yeah.
he's done the frog splash. That was just a simple.
I complain
finishes
about
matter,
that too.
It was a pin.
But now let's move on and let's
Yeah,
move
she
back
should.
to the women's division and let's move to Io Sky versus Bianca Belair, two of my favorite women in WWE. They are fantastic in the ring. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. And this match was decent. They could have had a better match, no doubt about it. But let's just move straight on to the headline. Bayley tried to help Io get the win, failed, but somebody didn't fail. And that is the returning Kairi Sane. Kairi Sane is back. Of course, we saw in NXT Io Sky and Kairi work together. Of course, we also saw Bayley be the last person to take out Kairi Sane in WWE before she went back to Japan. Well, she is back. Clark, you've complained a lot about damage control over the recent, months, pretty much a year now. But it looks like the end might be near. Io Sky, but she's got a relationship with Kairi Sane, and Kairi Sane doesn't seem to like Bayley. Ooh, looks like things are going bad. Clark, give me your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, there's only one route you go here, and that's Io Sky. Get her as far away from damage control as you can. Get everyone that's involved as far away from this as you can. Hit the reset button, essentially. I've never understood it. It hasn't benefited any of the three other than that they've been booked to win, but nobody feels more important. Io Sky wrestling big matches doesn't feel super relevant. Kairi Sane has to have a run-in on this one for it to be over the top entertaining. Pair up Kairi and Io, put them against Bayley and Dakota Kai. End this for me. I'm ready to go with that. I'm totally cool with that. It's a shame to me that Bianca Belair was stuck in the middle of this storyline in a weird way. And at the end of the day, I feel like the only option is Kairi Sane, Io Sky, split off.
Yeah.
Stop it with damage control. No damage has ever been controlled. And the only way to control that damage is to finally split it up.
Well, please can we not control the damage? I want to see these two teams. You just said it. Kairi Sane, Io Sky versus Bayley and Dakota Kai. Let them cause damage. I want to see that match. Fuck it, Triple H. But what about you, Coby? What did you think about this one?
God, the way you say Triple H always pops me. The biggest thing to me is it is War Games. What I don't want to see happen in this case is seeing just another form of we got to get a number of women together to do a War Games match. That's what I'm kind of afraid happens here. Is that we get some form of Io Sky, some form of like Io, Bayley, Kyrie, and one or two others versus the others. The other one, I mean, we know Dakota Kai is probably not ready this year, so you have time to tell that story of why is Kyrie here? Does Kyrie have ill will with Bayley? Is Io convincing Kyrie to keep Bayley, not keep Bayley on a leash, but put differences aside about the way things happened before? We don't know. You got to tell us that story, though. You got to work with the dynamics you have, and I mean, that's what we need to see in this case, and
Yeah.
that's all I need to say.
I mean, absolutely, Coby. You summed it up. They need to tell the story. Way to go at Cody Rhodes for not finishing the story, but these guys need to tell the story, and I'm certain they will. And I'm excited for this storyline now. Kairi Sane's injected life into it. But what about you, David? What were your thoughts?
I love this match. I did. I really love this match. And I know a lot of people, you said it was decent. I thought it was really good. Not as good as their match of Backlash, which was one of my top 10 matches of the year at the halfway stage. Would have dropped out of that by now. But even still, I thought it was really, really good fun. I really enjoyed seeing Kairi. I think I disagree with you as well, Clark. I think there's loads of ways you go with this Judgment Day Damage Control storyline.
Too many
Now,
factions.
I think running away from Damage Control now would be losing a lot of storyline potential. I think the next route is Bianca versus Kairi. I think that's the next thing you do. And then eventually you're leading into, I think there'll be some sort of war games where it'll be can they coexist with Kairi and Io and Bailey and somebody else, and it'll be Bianca and Charlotte and all them all of them in there. And I think eventually you're going to lead to Bianca versus Kairi, and I think it's all going to splinter. And I do think it is going to end with Bailey versus Io Sky. I think that's where we're building. And I thought this was really, really good fun. And to me, this was the second best thing on the show behind the opener. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited. Just was a little bit of a shame. I thought the reaction for Kairi was a bit disappointing, but they didn't frame it especially well. You didn't really see who it was for a while. But nevertheless, I'm super excited to see her back. And I do think there's a lot of potential for this.
Absolutely. I mean, I for one, am very... I agree with you. I'm very excited, and I like that pitch you just made. War games, can they coexist? That's how you start this story. Great booking there, David. But now let's move on, and let's move on to talk about Cody Rhodes, because for what feels like the 10,000th time he took on Damian Priest, or took on a member from the Judgment Day, I'm going to be honest, going into this one, I didn't really have much interest, purely because we've seen these, Cody versus Judgment Day matches over and over again, and every time they kind of just feel filler. It was a good match. It was a good match, but again, it felt, filler. And I complain at times about AEW having matches which just, well, they're just there to be there. And that's kind of what this felt like, if I'm going to be completely honest here. Cody Rhodes, it really just seems like they're trying to just fill his schedule up to keep him away from the Tribal Chief, keep him away from Roman Reigns. And if they're not doing that match at WrestleMania, then I'm very, very worried about what's been this entire point in this year for Cody Rhodes. But Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes got the dub. 3 Crossroads. We all know your opinion on that, Clark, and I actually agree with it. It's way too many Crossroads, way too often. But what did you think about the rest of this match?
So, what do you want to talk about? And while you might expect on a Saturday afternoon in November for me to talk down upon Cody Rhodes this afternoon, I am not going to do so right this second. No, I will not. I will be talking about Damian Priest in a negative light, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Damian Priest. I've always been a huge fan of your work. I think you're awesome. I think it's kind of a shame you had to go to the side chokeslam thing instead of, the Crossroads because of that. And even when you won the Money in the Bank, not your fault. And I'm not even trying to talk directly to you because I am a fan. But how does somebody get their Money in the Bank briefcase stolen? Theft. Pure theft. I mean, stolen from them. And you walk out with the 2 tag team titles like, well, you're not even like the thing's missing.
It's a good point, actually. It is a good point.
The briefcase, right? Shouldn't you have all 3? He's out here like, whoa, I'm going to beat Cody Rhodes with 2 tag team titles. Like, how many pieces of jewelry And briefcases, can you hand one guy? He gets one stolen. He doesn't even care. Doesn't even matter. Going in. And then on top of that, they wrestle a really good match. But like Ben said, we've seen him wrestle 400 times. So, like, what's 401 while we're up? And then, of course, it still takes multiple crossroads. So while I'm up, I will get the jab in on that. Multiple crossroads. But I mean, yeah, Mr. Kennedy may have made some mistakes, but what are we doing here? In the words of myself on that one, what are we doing here?
In the words of myself, I mean that's certainly a quote. But no, listen, I'm going to be honest. The most stupid thing about this, Clark, and this actually says a lot. I completely had forgotten by this match that the briefcase was stolen.
He's just walking out with the belts, like,
yeah,
whoa!
like I said earlier in the show. During this match, I joked that he was going to cash in on the main event once he lost. Of course he couldn't. The briefcase isn't in his possession. He should have refused to go out there or something, saying, "I need my briefcase or I'm not competing."
Or wouldn't
Adam
you be
Pearce, do
thinking
something.
about the fact that it's missing? At least show some emotion along the ramp, change your entrance in some sense.
It's
I
a shame
agree.
as well because the match was very good.
It
But you don't
was?
care. But you don't care because it is good moves for the sake of good moves. Because it's just I kept waiting. I waited the whole thing for something, for Drew to come in and attack, for something, for Jey Uso to do something of note, for there to be some advancement to this story, a reason for the match to be on a because Triple H has been so good at streamlining his pay-per-view so that they're short and really impactful, that every match has a reason for being there. And I have no idea what the reason for this match being there was, as even though the match itself, from a moves perspective, was very good.
That's a solid point. I think it's hard to kind of argue with that one.
I agree.
One bit. But I mean, what are you saying,
The
Coby?
one thing I want to say is, Clark,
Yeah.
you were accusing Mr. Cody Rhodes of being a cheater when he was using the cast that he had against Brock Lesnar. Are you going to call Sami Zayn a criminal for the theft you accused him of?
No, because it was a babyface theft. Because it's different. It's
Cody
different.
Rhodes.
It's totally
Well, isn't that
different.
a babyface cast then?
Hang on a sec. Let me just come over here. Hang on.
No.
This is Clark's big book of excuses.
Whoa,
Hang on.
whoa,
If I turn
guys.
to page,
You're starting to live in a world of straight lines, and I live in a world of nuance. Sami Zayn is defending the honor of the Money in the Bank briefcase by stealing it, because we've got it on a guy that
if we all just
Just
take one
saying.
look, if we all just take one look below the camera, we'll find the deep hole that Clark has managed
you
to
guys,
dig all the way from America.
you guys
to us
enjoy
here.
you guys
It's
enjoy your
amazing.
world of right and wrong.
Well,
this
talking-
man chose to make an argument about the 619 instead of the trio of crossroads. Everybody.
Anyway, talking about deep holes, let's talk about the deep one which LA Knight was just buried in by Roman Reigns. Because, of course, in the main event, LA Knight not going to go for it for once, Clark.
Yeah.
Took him a minute, didn't it? No, but in the main event...
I actually had to take a deep breath for that one.
In the main event, LA Knight took on Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal Championship. Roman Reigns is record-breaking reign, in the last couple of decades, 1,000 days plus. It's something which I don't think we'll experience again in our lifetimes. I've already said that before, and I'll stick with it. But let's be real here, not many people went into this match thinking that LA Knight, could do it. And yet, he did not do it. And I'm going to be completely honest here, I do not think Roman Reigns cheated enough, or at least did enough to actually beat LA Knight. Because this kind of felt like the least interruption out of any of his recent matches. It felt like this one was, I don't want to say easy, because obviously Jimmy still got involved in all of that, but it seemed a lot easier than a lot of his other opponents. LA Knight coming out of this match, I said that this match could be the match which makes him, a megastar, right now he's the people star. He could turn into a mega star even in loss in this match. I don't think that happened at all, unfortunately. It wasn't a bad match. It was it was fine, but it wasn't as good as it could and should have been. Roman Reigns, I don't think, did enough to beat LA Knight. But yep, it looks like the reign's continuing, and LA Knight, well, I guess he's doing something else now. Maybe Logan Paul, United States Championship. That option's there. David, I'll start this one with you. What did you think about this main event of WWE Crown Jewel 2023?
It was good. It's a shame, really, because the match was severely hurt by the fact that nobody bought that LA Knight was winning. They didn't do enough in the match to make you think that LA Knight was going to win. The only near fall he really had was off the BFT, which Roman immediately kind of scuttled over to the ropes, which made it really obvious that a rope break spot was coming in some capacity. LA Knight was good. He's not a ring general by any means. He is a very attitude era, very charismatic. The in-ring skills aren't quite as strong, but that can carry, and the crowd did carry it through. I think that it was just it kind of ended up just being on the low end of good, because I never really got into it, just simply because I never bought it. And I don't really know what you do to fix the issue at this point in Roman's run, because he's just, unless you get, like, when you went through anything when it was Sammy and Cody and all those people, when you build people up to that level where they can realistically win after months and months of story, by the time you get to this part of the story, it is just filler. It's like nobody bought Logan Paul was going to win the title. It's just, they're good matches. I thought the Logan Paul match was great, because I thought this was just good. If you're going to have a match that's so obvious as to who is going to win, you need something that's really going to make it special. And to me, it wasn't that. It was just a Roman Reigns LA Knight match, a totally, good enough, serviceable enough LA Knight Roman Reigns match, but nothing that you're gonna, write home about. And for me, I wanted a bit more. It was good. I think LA Knight will still go on, still be mega popular, and Roman moves on to whoever his next challenger is. But yeah, it was a bit of an underwhelming main event, but it certainly wasn't bad. It was just a bit disappointing.
Yeah, no, I do feel very, very similar to you, David. It just felt like something was missing. Not that anything about it was bad, but something was missing. And this could have been that star-defining moment for Mr. Los Angeles Knight. But what about you, Coby? What did you think about this one?
That's the thing. I don't want to turn this into just we all say the same thing and we all agree, but it had that feeling. I didn't believe LA Knight had a chance. David didn't have one. Clark didn't have one. Ben didn't either. I don't want to say they didn't do a good enough job, but they did. They throughout the build-up, they did a lot of good stuff. Especially that cash-in was great. Last night's promo was good as well. I mean, that contract signing was amazing. Like from having him sit at the head of the table, LA Knight had a lot of good booking and good promo work, and it was built to this match where I'll say it wasn't the best match. It wasn't the most important match of the show. By all means, it wasn't. Did this interference feel repetitive? A little. But this felt. I don't want to say this was underwhelming to me, but it was slightly underwhelming. It was by all means a solidly worked match. Nothing spectacular or nothing over the top special. A lot of the chants were really fun as well, and
That's a good point.
I enjoyed that as well. But nothing too special, nothing too spectacular, nothing over the top to go out of your way to watch, unless you're the type of guy that wants to, unless you're the type of person that wants to see how crowds can interact with the wrestlers in the match and the different types of chants we got. They were fun, they were enjoyable, but nothing to go out of your way to see.
Yeah, no, Coby. I mean, I didn't bring that up. I think that's a fantastic point. Of course, we saw some of those points not points. We saw some of those chants during it, where those CM Punk chants. Oh, Chicago Survivor Series. Oh, will he show up? And also Roman Reigns, he can't wrestle. Bit bold.
That was wild. That's a wild chant. I do quickly want to add my thoughts on the match really quick. I thought.
Don't worry, we weren't going to cut over you.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm like, I thought it. I thought it actually delivered as far as LA Knight bell to bell better than expected, and I think LA Knight deserves his flowers for this one. The level of inevitability in Roman Reigns retaining the title is, I think, the precipice of this problem. And the issue also lies deeper than that, in that we are very confident that there's not going to be a change in Roman Reigns' trajectory or title, not only on the way to WrestleMania, but maybe even until WrestleMania or beyond. And that's what scares me to death, because LA Knight was as over as anyone. We saw this with a crowd in a different country, right? A unique crowd chanting for LA Knight. This is something we saw similar in Montreal with Sami Zayn. We've seen it before. I don't know that I've ever seen the only answer to that question Cody Rhodes chanted for like that anywhere, or like Sammy was anywhere. As far as that's concerned, I'm not sure we've built someone to be on the other side truly that denies us of that inevitability, which is what makes wrestling great. Being unsure, feeling the emotions, and that's something I want to see, because LA Knight at certain moments of this match did make me feel those. We talked about suspending disbelief on this very show. It's one of my favorite things about wrestling. You have to do it. For 1 second, I thought maybe he can do it. And that's enough for me. And LA Knight deserves a lot of credit for that. So does Roman Reigns. But please, heading into Mania season, it's starting to get close. It's starting to get tight. Let's get this right. Triple H, I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Get this exactly right. Make me feel. Make me want to see it. Make me want to see it happen. Whatever it is. I don't want it at the last second. I don't want it just on the way based on the timing of pay-per-views and whatnot. Make me believe.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest. We've disagreed on a few points on this show, Clark, but I 100% agree with you on that. We look back to last year, they had at this point multiple contenders, Sami Zayn being the biggest one, whereas now we're kind of in a position where we're just thinking to ourselves, is Cody going to win the Royal Rumble and jump over, or will The Rock return? I mean, that's not good enough, is it? When you talk about, who could take the championship off somebody. But very, very quickly, guys, this right here, this show actually marks a year from the day that that I did my first show with Clark and Coby, and of course Anthony as well. It was the Crown Jewel. We kind of did a different format compared to the daily, but that show and the success of that show ended up being what led to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. And I just want to take a moment to thank everybody who tunes in every single day, or even as much as they can, right? Because it really does mean so much to us. We love to do this for you guys. We love to come on here and talk about our passion, our love for professional wrestling. And yeah, it's an absolute honor that we get to do this, and hopefully we continue to take it to the next level. And also, of course, thank you to Coby and to Clark for joining me across this last year, and David for joining the last few months as well, especially today, because it has been a very fun show indeed. Of course, tonight is All Elite Wrestling's Collision. We will be back here tomorrow, an hour earlier than we are right now. technically 2 hours, I think, if you're in the States, 1 hour earlier in the UK than we started today to review tomorrow night's AEW Collision. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're on Spotify, please give us a cheeky 5 stars. We're really trying to boost our following over there. And if you're on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe and share the videos if you can too, because again, we're trying to grow our following on there too, so more and more people can see us, see our love. Thank you to Clark, thank you to David, and thank you to Coby Galenzoski once again. We will see you guys tomorrow. Peace. See you.